to go ahead and take this moment to share my screen. I feel like I always struggle with this. It's one of the things that I'm not doing the best at in this COVID time.
Sharing your screen?
Yeah, it's like I do it so often and I struggle every time. Okay, I got it. Let me go to present. All right, awesome. So undergraduate research and creative activities. So introductions, I already introduced myself. My name is Carissa Gomez, undergraduate programs coordinator. And then we have our faculty director and our fearless leader, Professor Ann Charity Hudley, who works as the North Hall Endowed Chair in the linguistics department, but also serves as our director. So she actually does a lot. So I was gonna say she does a little of everything, but she actually does a lot. So she's a really good person, a great person to get to know, and she really loves interacting with students. So if you ever get the chance to hang out with her either in person one day or via Zoom, she definitely welcomes that and really loves hearing student perspectives. A little background about myself. I am actually a UCSB alum. I graduated in 2017 with my degree in communication, minor in applied psychology. I've always really sort of been involved in sort of like student-centered work during my time at UCSB, first through the residence halls and then through the Office of Student Life, orientation programs, and then now in my current role with URCA. So I always like to start this presentation with the question, what is research? It seems like a simple question, but when asking it to myself as a student, I really struggled with it. So I would like to take this time to get to know, what do you all think research is? So if I could have somebody volunteer their definition. Does it have to be, it's not no right or wrong answers here, just.
So we had a chat submission.
I'll take it.
And then we also had Rena who raised her hand. So the
no, I gave away my definition.
Uh-oh.
Oh no.
Finding out.
Well, you can still say that. What was the chat?
The chat was finding out answers to a question.
Well,
and Rena had something she wanted to add to that.
I just wanted to say that I learned that it is something even to update the past results that they had found. I mean, that was what I learned new in the past.
Yeah, so like something that you gained based off of like past evidence or something.
Yeah, to update the past information that maybe it is not up to date.
To
today's world.
Yeah, so those are all correct. So we use a fancy textbook definition of research, but your definitions definitely fit into that. So we say that research is an inquiry, an investigation, or pursuit conducted by an undergraduate student that makes an original, intellectual, or creative contribution to a discipline, area, question, challenge, or theme. But it can mean all those things. It can mean updating something to be relevant based off of data that you've collected. It can be, discovering something new. So research has a lot of different, sorts of definitions, but it all comes back down into, creating that new knowledge. So what are your options for research at UCSB, and I guess in general too? So there are a lot of different ways to do research, but just for simplicity's sake, we like to break it down into these three different categories. So at UCSB, you can start doing research by assisting a faculty member or a graduate student on an existing project. So if you don't know this already, your faculty members or your professors are also researchers. So they are conducting their own research projects and teaching you too. And your graduate students are also doing their own research projects as well, and oftentimes assisting faculty members on their projects. So you could also be part of that team and assisting those people. You can also work on a project that merges your own interests with those of a faculty member or a graduate student. So if you have your own ideas of a project you want to start creating, maybe those ideas that you have are really similar to the work that a professor or a graduate student is doing. So oftentimes you can collaborate with one another and share your knowledge on the subject. And then you can also design and conduct an independent project under the supervision of an advisor or as part of a team. So a lot of students who are further into their research journey decide that they want to do their own independent project. But because they're still, starting out in a way, they still ask for the help of a faculty mentor or a graduate student mentor, the advice of somebody who is maybe a little more seasoned in the research experience, and they can help them with that process. You can volunteer with a professor. There are a couple benefits with volunteering with a professor. One is to learn more about what research is. So, I gave you a sort of, broad definition of what research is, but one way to really learn what it is just to dive into it. And there are different types of research. So I know when I first started out, I thought that research meant that I would be going into a lab every single day, which isn't always the case. For some disciplines, that is the case. You'd be doing lab work with pipettes. But research can also take other forms. It can look like going out into the field and taking soil samples. It can look like doing community-based research and surveying members of your community, collecting data. So it can take a lot of different forms. And that's also a good way to figure out if that type of research is a good fit for you. Maybe a certain type of research you'll enjoy better than a different type of research. And it's a good way, doing different research projects is a way to figure out what it is exactly that you like to do. And then it helps you get to know your professor on a different level. So instead of, viewing, or not even viewing, but like going to a lecture full of other people and seeing your professor on stage or at the front of the classroom, volunteering with research really gives you the opportunity to get to know your professor on sort of a one-to-one ratio. And it also helps you gain academic credit towards your major or degree. So when you're participating in research, you actually have the opportunity to use those research hours and convert them into units. If you want more information on how to do that, I would talk to your undergraduate advisor for your department, since each department kind of has their own specific regulations on that. Volunteering with a grad student. I really want to highlight this slide because grad students are a very important part of the research team. They work really closely with the faculty mentor on their research projects, and oftentimes, grad students are the ones who are interacting really closely with the undergraduate research staff and managing the undergraduate staff and assigning them tasks and whatnot. So getting to know your grad student in your classrooms or breakout discussions is a good way to start learning about different research opportunities and how you can get involved. You can also participate in summer research. So I know the life of a student can be really busy and hectic at times. You have maybe 16 units a quarter in like 1 or 2 student organizations or more, and other groups that you're managing. So sometimes maybe research doesn't fit into the academic year, which is fine because there are summer research opportunities. Research doesn't stop in the summertime for professors. They got to keep going. So a lot of times they look for research assistants in the summertime on campus, but don't feel limited to on campus. Research is happening in other research institutions as well, and they need the help as well. So reaching out to those sort of groups out there too. But there are also research programs that are happening outside of UCSB as well. So like I mentioned, there are like structured research programs that happen at other universities across the nation. So usually if you wanted to apply for those sort of programs, their deadlines happen in either January or February. So that is a good time to start looking for those programs if you're hoping to do summer research for that year. Research benefits for you. There are a lot of different benefits to research, and I can go on and on about them, but my favorites are to grow as a critical, analytical, and independent thinker, and to sharpen problem solving, reading, writing, and speaking skills. And why do I like those? I like those because to me, those seem like the most transferable sort of skills. So whatever you end up doing after university, whether that is getting an internship or a full-time job or going on to graduate school or whatever is next, all these skills are applicable towards those things. And really being at the top of your game in these type of skills, like being critical, being analytical, even as simple as writing and speaking skills, which we've been doing our whole life, being able to sharpen those skills really sets you apart from other people, and you can tell. Research benefits for professors. Professors, like I said, they can't do research without you. The research doesn't stop, and it's a lot of work. So they definitely are appreciative of the help that you provide them, and graduate students as well. They learn with you, so they recognize that you bring a lot of knowledge and you bring a lot of your own experiences to the team and to the project. And now that you kind of have a sort of, hopefully you have an idea now of what generally research is and what you can, very broadly do with it. I know that my 10 minutes or 5 minutes of that does not do it justice, and I'm happy to speak about it more if you want to meet with me. But hopefully now you have a tiny little taste of what research kind of is. And I'll get into talking about our office's specific research initiatives now, which is primarily the Faculty Research Assistance Program and the Undergraduate Research and Creative Activities Grant. So starting out with FRAP. So you can get involved as early as your first year with FRAP, and you can get academic credit for serving as a research assistant. Basically what FRAP is, it's a database of research projects. We ask professors to submit, if they're requiring the help of a research assistant, we ask them to submit a project description, and it's just a one-stop sort of shop where you can skim through different projects and find one that you're interested in, and so you can start getting involved in research. So this is an example of what one of the entries looks like. So you'll find the project title at the top. So in this case, it's Google Effects. You'll find the department, communication, the contact information of the professor, where they're located, and their name. So that if you wanted to, let's say you were interested in this project, then the way that you apply for this position is by actually contacting the professor through the contact information provided. So then you'll also see the project description to give you an idea of what the project is about, and then undergraduate contribution, so what you as the undergraduate researcher, your role in that project. The descriptions also let you know if there are any requirements. A lot of the time, there are no requirements to participate in these research projects. And if there are, they'll be listed. So going back to here, I also want to highlight that since we don't have a formal application and you would have to email the professor to participate in this opportunity, sometimes that can be a little daunting. I know as a student, I was always really nervous to contact my professors. I don't know why, I was just really nervous. And so a lot of the times other students hold the same sentiment and we get it. So oftentimes we have students come into our office and we'll help them construct an email, the right things to include in that email so that you can stand out to that professor. Yeah, just know that that service is available to you as well if you find a project, or even if you find a project that's not on the FRAP directory, but you still need help with that initial email, feel free to reach out to us. And then we have who should apply. So anyone in the College of Letters and Science can apply, but really anyone in any college can use the directory. So if you're in the College of Letters and Science, College of Engineering, College of Creative Studies, anybody can use a directory. What this slide means is that students in the College of Letters and Science will receive units for participating in research listed in the directory. And students who want to get involved with research, this is a great way to start. And if you're already involved in research, but you want to look for a different opportunity, this is another great place to look for that different opportunity. And then we have our URCA grant. So our URCA grant, students can apply for $750 to go towards their independent research or creative activity. So students that have their own research project and want to get funding for it, they can apply to this grant, which is really helpful. Sometimes students need supplies like printing costs for surveys, or they need a subscription to a database to continue their research. And we want to help you. We don't want everything to come out of your own pocket. We want you to continue to do your research, so we provide you with this funding. So pretty much we can fund any sort of project-related expense, except we are not funding domestic travel this year, just to follow COVID regulations. To qualify for this grant, you need to be in good academic standing. You need to be engaged or plan to be engaged in a research or creative project. That's a key point, because when you submit your application, that means that you don't have to be actively doing research at the moment. You just need to give us a solid plan, at least a solid plan of how you plan to do your research. And then you need to have a faculty mentor to supervise the project and provide you a letter of support. We have the Transfer Student Research Award as well, which is pretty much the same thing as the URCA grant. So it's another grant where students can apply for $750 to go towards their independent research project. The only difference is that this grant is only available for our transfer students. So only transfer students are allowed to apply for this, and only transfer students are funded through the Transfer Student Research Award. I didn't even mention the deadline. So for the URCA grant, our application deadline happens earlier in the year, so fall quarter. This year, the application deadline is on November 20th, and we open up our application portal on October 2nd. And we understand that that doesn't always give our transfer student population, enough time to get their applications in, which is why we created the Transfer Student Research Award, because we want to give you that opportunity as well. So the application period for the Transfer Student Research Award actually happens later in the year, towards the end of the winter quarter. So we don't have the exact dates for that right now, but know that it happens in early March. But you'll probably see a lot of us getting the word out there. So yeah, that gives our transfer students about a quarter and a half, almost 2 quarters, to get acclimated to the campus, to start building up those academic, relationships with professors to get that letter of support. We also host URCA Week. So that is a week where we promote our students and their research. So one of the things that we do is the undergraduate research colloquium. As you can see on the photos, it's a very busy event. It's a lot of fun. Students get the opportunity to present their research, which they love doing just because they work so hard on these projects all year round. So they get to present these posters to the campus, the community. And so everyone is welcome to come view them. Friends, students oftentimes invite their families, their professors, employers, everyone. So it gets pretty busy in there, and it gives students the opportunity to practice their presentation skills, public speaking. It's also a great thing for them to put on their resume to say that they've presented their research and can articulate these sort of complex ideas to people who aren't familiar with their work. I added this one. So this is what we did this year. So as you can see with our COVID situation, we were not able to do this beautiful colloquium this year. So we not improvised. Yeah, I guess so. We were creative, and we decided to turn it digital. So if you were to go and look through our website, you'll see this tab at the top called Digital Colloquium. You can see, you can see different research posters that students have submitted. And you'll see an abstract once you click on the thing. So it's sort of a gallery of posters online. It's a nice thing to check out if you're not familiar with what a research poster is supposed to look like. You can see posters from math, life, and physical science, humanities and fine arts, and then social sciences as well. We also host the Undergraduate Research Slam. So this is sort of an elevator pitch of research. What that means is that students, oh no, I'm sorry.
We'll give you a minute to get yourself gathered. I know that it's unexpected sometimes when these phone calls come in during our Zoom meetings. But one thing to note, right, is the progression. You're allowed to do research at all levels, right? So there's research like where you're at the beginning stages, and here we're starting to discuss. Carisa's mentioning this undergraduate research slam, which is now the presentation stage. So you go from data collection to like novice, brand new, to like, here you go, here's another level that you can shine at as a researcher too. You good, Carissa? All right, it's all you. I'll shut up.
Thank you all for bearing with me. That's what happens when you connect your phone to your computer. So thank you. Yeah, so getting back to this, the Undergraduate Research Slam. So you have 3 slides and 3 minutes to present your research. This is actually a lot of fun. I get really nervous watching this presentation because students or students who are doing their research, or anyone really who's passionate about any subject, if you're asking them to condense everything that they know about a topic that they've been studying for so long and condense that down into 3 minutes, it's actually a tough thing to ask for them to do. So it's really exciting to see how they can get creative with their presentation and really and to condense this like very like technical work and technical language into 3 minutes, and in a way that the public can understand it. So that's a really interesting thing to see. And it doesn't hurt too that they can get cash prizes for winning. So that's definitely a nice incentive for them to participate. We also host the undergraduate colloquium Unbound. So we understand that presenting your research on a poster maybe isn't always the best way to present your research. So we allow students to get really creative with how they present their research. And what that means is that, in the past, students have presented their work through video or presented it, physically through like a demonstration. We've had students in the past do documentaries or have interactive sort of exhibits on a table. So there are a lot of different ways that you can present your research. We definitely don't want to stifle any creativity. And if you have ideas of how to present your research that is not in a poster format, let us know, because we'd like to see it. So what can you do to get involved? Step 1 is to go to class. Going to class, one, it exposes you to a lot of different theories and sort of more technical things that can inspire your research. But it also gives you the opportunity to start building a relationship with your professor or your TA. So professors, get to know them. Like I said, by going to class, but taking advantage of office hours as well. Pro tip, a lot of people don't see the professors doing office hours until about midterms. I wonder why, but that midterm hits and all of a sudden they get really busy. So if you want to schedule in some time with your professors, I'd say taking advantage of those first couple of weeks is a good time to do it. They have office hours for a reason, and they do like getting to know you, and they like to know that you're interested in the work that they're doing. Also, your TAs, get to know them as well. Like I mentioned before, your TAs are very much involved in your courses. They also oftentimes lead discussion sections, so you get to know them pretty well. And they also have their own office hours, so that's another thing to take advantage of as well. Be and stay curious. So if you're starting to think about research, and if you're starting to, be interested in it and decide that you want to do it, one way to kind of like figure out what you want to research is to think about the things that you're curious about. What sparks that sort of, what gets your brain buzzing, what sparks that curiosity, what inspires you, and what's something interesting to make you dive more into a particular subject or theme. You can explore your interests. So going off of that, you're going to spend if you do end up doing research, you end up spending a lot of your time on a particular subject. And so if you're spending a lot of time on a particular subject, you want to make sure that it is interesting to you, right? So one way to kind of think about a research question or a research area is to think about your own interests and how you can dive into that. Seeking opportunities. So you can seek opportunities through URCA, through the different programs that I've just gone through, but there are also a lot of different programs at UCSB that have different research opportunities for you. The great thing about URCA is just what I like to call ourselves like a general sort of research office. We're like a bridge to other programs. So even if you're not particularly interested in doing URCA or TSRA or FRAP, I still encourage you to reach out to us if you're interested in research, because we have connections with all these different research groups, and we can direct you, point you in the right direction. So some things that you can do now, like I mentioned, going to office hours, finding a professor who's doing research that interests you. Ask yourself some questions about what you like to do during your free time, how you can turn that into a research question or a research project. So there's a couple things that you can do now while you wait for the fall quarter to begin and decide whether or not you want to do research. And I promise you I will answer all your research questions at the end of this presentation. But for now, I'll jump into the other half of what URCA does, which is UCDC and UCCS, and those are our academic internship programs. So with UCDC, you get to live, study, and intern in either Washington, D.C. or Sacramento for a quarter. You still maintain your UC student status, so you're still a UCSB student. And you get an intern in the field of your choice. For this academic year, meaning fall, winter, and spring, our programs are actually remote, which is a little different. You ask, like, why should I do a remote internship? You're still getting all the benefits, professional benefits that you would if you were to go in person. You still get to build up that professional network. You still get to put that you had a really awesome internship on your resume and get all the skills that you learned from that from that internship. So like I said, this program is offered fall, winter, spring, and summer quarters. Remember, fall, winter, spring are remote, and summer is to be announced. We're hoping that we can do an in-person program by then, but we'll have to wait things out. These programs are open to all majors. You need to be junior or senior standing, 3.0 GPA, and if you receive financial aid, that is applied to the program fees. We also have a financial aid advisor who works specifically with our programs. So we have like one individual who specializes in that. So if you were interested in this program but kind of wanted to know a more concrete estimate of what your finances, your specific finances would look like, you can always talk to that advisor. Her name is Hannah Wong, and she can provide you with like a specific estimate according to your situation. So academics, this program is made up of a weekly seminar, 4-letter graded units, an internship for 8 pass, no pass units, and then optional electives that you can take. The cool thing about this remote program is that now you have the opportunity to take UCSB courses as well as the UCDC courses. So before you were, we had students only take the UCDC courses, but now that courses are remote, we can be a little more flexible in that. This is a list of some internships where students have interned in the past. It's definitely not a complete list. There are so many other internships, intern locations where they have worked. It's just an example, but it's important to note that you have a lot of autonomy in choosing your internship. So you are provided a lot of assistance, so your UCSB team like me, and then the UCDC peers at UCSB. But once admitted, you actually have access to the academic internship team in DC. So you have people in DC helping you find an internship, and you have access to an internship database that is only for our UCDC and UCCS students. Not to mention that, being a part of this program, it's been around for a while, so at least folks in DC and Sacramento area know the weight that being a UCDC or UCCS student holds. Our students have a good reputation, so it definitely helps in finding really great internships. So program benefits. Goodness gracious. So you got to contribute to change. I think that's a really cool thing to see as an intern. When you're used to being in class and learning all this theory, it's a really neat experience when you're able to apply that theory into a real world work setting and actually see tangible change happen because of you and your work. You also get application experience. So in being a part of these programs, you actually, we encourage students to apply to about 12 to 15 different internships. It can sound a little daunting, but like I said, you have a lot of help from both people at the centers and then people on campus. So we review your cover letters, your resumes, and we really work with you to make sure that you're sending out the best materials. And this is really helpful. It's just a helpful skill to learn in general, but it would really help you once you leave university and you are looking for that full-time job, that you know how to write a really well constructed resume and cover letter. And you have network experience as well. Just because the program is remote doesn't mean that you don't get the opportunity to network. Our on-site staff has worked really hard in creating pre-departure programming that prepares you for a remote work life, which includes teaching you how to network in this digital world now. But they've also set up programming like bringing in guest speakers, professionals from the area who are working in industries that you're interested in. And those speaker series are only available to you, the participants. And exploring different career paths. Having an internship in general, whether you're doing this program or not doing this program, doing an internship in general just really helps you figure out whether or not you want to pursue that career that you're doing. You can say you want to do something, but then you actually get to do the work and maybe you don't enjoy that work. Or maybe you do, and so then it solidifies your decision to go into that field. But either way, it really helps you determine what route you want to go, which is really nice to know before committing to a full-time job. And here are just some photos of where some of our students have submitted in the past. And contact information for me. I have listed my email here, also my personal Zoom meeting room. So if you wanted to meet with me, you have that handy. And I welcome if you all want to meet and talk about I'll answer questions, but if you want to talk about any of these programs, feel free to set up an appointment with me and we can chat about it.
Do any of you have any questions that you'd like to ask Karina? I mean, Carissa, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I have student reading names. Does anybody have any questions?
So if we were interested in having some help creating an email to send out to professors we would like to do research with, would we contact you directly, or is there a better email within the department? Which would you recommend?
Yeah, you can contact me directly. I'll always answer your emails. We also have the URCA@ltsc.ucsb.edu right there, and that's sort of our general office one. So you're always welcome to send me emails, but this one, just so you know, the other URCA one will go to myself and also our peer mentors who are student researchers as well. So, and they're all trained in how to help you through that, how to construct the email as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, those initial communications are always tough, right? Mentioned in last class that even as a student, I remember like how nervous I was, but now as a professional, like I'm glad I had that understanding and training, because it's helped me um, communicate more effectively with other people in the research process, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like even inventing your frustration or things not working out, it definitely helps to be given these small communication skills, because they actually play big dividends, right, in the real world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. One of the things that, and I think has been a question that's come up to me a lot, especially now that things are remote, is the students ask me, how can I, start building up research skills right now that, the idea of research is a little shaky at the university, especially, I guess, labs, because those are, but I always encourage students, there are so many things that you can do in preparation, like things that you maybe don't even realize, like you mentioned, the communication skills or the reading and the writing skills. Those are just foundational things that you're still going to need in the research. So at the minimum, building up those sort of things will contribute to you getting that position.
Right, and not having experience, right, isn't having experience isn't a prerequisite. So not
Mm-hmm.
having experience is a great position to be in order to learn.
Yeah.
And even if you have experience, it's one of the notes I was trying to make when your phone call came in, was that the services provided through you all assist you at any level of research that you're at. Right, you could be entry level to presenting on your own, poster or otherwise, and you have the assistance there from a research department, which I mean, I don't know. I know that on the other end of things, um, I feel like I should have taken more advantage of those services when I was an undergrad. But I'm glad I went through grad school, because it made me kind of work on those things anyways, right? But if you're not going to go to graduate school, or if that's not a sure thing for you in your career path, these skills still transfer.
Yeah.
So let's see. Do we have other questions on undergrad research programs, UCDC? Now we're shy. It's okay. It's quite a bit of information also to kind of um, take in from a transfer side, where you're coming in and maybe not having had so much exposure to research. But we've been looking forward to you visiting us, because the topic of what is undergraduate research, how do you perform it under the current context of the pandemic, as well as, um, as a student, utilizing your resources helps you, maximize your efforts. And so, you all are like a cornerstone for many young and budding researchers and those in the process. So um, please, if any of you have any questions right now, is a great time to be asking. If not, you can always email her. She
Yeah.
gave us her contact.
Well, while you guys think of questions, I can go ahead and say too that um, don't limit yourself just to FRAP or URCA or the, these things are, I mean, we try to make it easy for you all to try to find these opportunities, but these opportunities are everywhere, even if they're not listed on FRAP. One way that you can look for different opportunities is by going to departmental pages, UCSB departmental pages. Each page will have a faculty list. So you can look through that list, and usually they have a summary of that faculty member's research interests, whether it's things that they have researched, they're currently researching, or things that they've researched in the past. Sometimes they'll have a link to their research website or their CV. You can see different like journals that they've, or different publications that they've done, and that's a great way to learn about their work is by actually reading the journals that they've published, which U.S. students have the awesome opportunity that you have access to that through your credentials and stuff. So that's a cool opportunity. That's one thing that I would say is I didn't take advantage of. I mean, well, once you leave university, you don't get access to those journals anymore. And I feel like my mind works like now that I've gone through UCSB, I have a question about something and I want to look up a journal to be like, oh, what do they say about this? And I can't look it up anymore. So that's something nerdy, but something cool that you can take advantage of, I think, too.
I can identify. I went through manic overload, and I was like, I'm gonna start downloading every PDF that I think I'm gonna use in the next year or two, because you never know where you end up, right? And having a proxy login after graduation is like maybe for a month or two.
Yeah.
You don't get that much time on it.
Yeah. So those little things that seem like little things actually end up being taken for granted, and then you don't have them anymore. But that's a good way to using those sort of databases to look up the articles that faculty members have published, so you can learn more about their work. And that way, when you finally get the time to meet with them or sending that email, you can include, oh, hey, I read your work on XYZ, and that automatically shows them that you have taken interest in their work, that that you've taken the time to learn about what they're doing, and so that you can contribute to that.
A cool extension to that is because as transfer students, you have less time to conceptualize these professional academic relationships. If you're looking at graduate school, right? One of the things that sounds like it's a great opportunity here is in meeting one faculty member through their end of research, and then asking them to kind of be your middle person for you at the next stage of your work. So working with a faculty member, you can build up these interests that are common, but also very personal. And then they can tell you, well, you know what? I don't work in those specific terms, but I know someone who could be of great benefit for you if you go to grad school and work with them. And then that's how the network, right, starts bridging you into your other work. So sometimes I've had students ask me whether it's a separate process, right? And I'm like, well, not really, because once you get involved in the research community, it's pretty small. You roll around in small cliques, if you will, depending on your foci. So you're able to add and build off of that network, but it's there. And it's kind of like one of those things that when I transferred in, I didn't even think about. I was like, I just need to do research, and then I can have that on my transcript, and then boom, it's good. But I didn't know how faculty are there to promote you and advocate for you, where other people might not be able to, because they worked with you. They know what you're capable of.
Yeah.
That's cool. I think we have time for a question or two if anybody has one. Okay. Well, Carissa, I'd like to thank you very much for joining me again for the Ed 117 M class. I know that, again, students were looking forward to you joining and describing some of your services. So I can tell that they'll be looking out for you in the fall. They just kind of need a little bit of time to settle themselves in.
Yeah, not a problem. I'm kind of the same way. I kind of process things a little. It takes me time to process things, and then I have my questions later. So y'all have my contact information. Please feel welcome to reach out to me.
And then Thursday we'll be continuing the discussion, on a personal level in breakout rooms. So thank you again for joining us today, Carissa.
All right. Thank you so much. Bye.
Have a good one. Bye. Alrighty, everyone. So how about we spend a little bit of time and we'll move over to the master plan. And I'll go ahead and go through the master plan with you. And then we'll see where we're at on time. If we have any questions that we can address, we'll do that. If not, again, we have Thursday we're going to dedicate to this whole master planning for you, organizing and all that. You give me 1 second while I go ahead and switch screens. All righty. So here we are. If you go to Gaucho Space, it's up there on the final week. It's due on next week, so you can find the assignment available on next week's section of Gaucho Space. But once you click on it, it'll go ahead and open up to a separate window, and this is the assignment. So for this assignment, I want you to record a short video detailing what your plans are for your future. I forgot to write this in here specifically, but I'd like for you to use 1, 3, and 5 years as your markers, okay? So what are your plans or your goals for the next year, for the next 3 years, and then where do you see yourself in 5 years, right? What are some of the goals that you have? Now, the way that I want you to go about this is you're going to have to kind of draft this out in your head at first, right? But we've talked about some of these initial stages already, right? And this doesn't have to be anything super involved. It could be a couple of goals for every year, right? So it could be 2 or 3 goals for year 1, the same for year 3, and the same for year 5. Also, I understand plans can change, can be altered, but it's always good to have a plan so that you know where to move from or where to refocus, reprioritize later on. Okay, so I don't want you to stress out on the amount of content that you have to provide for the final, so long as you're able to provide some content for year 1, year 3, year 5. I just want you thinking near future and then a little bit further out. All right. As Carissa was sharing, right, these things tend to kind of have a snowball effect. Once you get involved in one end of things, it kind of carries you to the next stage and the next stage. And so as you start to prepare and plan, you know, you've heard a lot of presenters and you've had people probably have these discussions with you before. But just putting it on paper for now. And then, you know, as you go along through the school year, it's always something you can refer to. Okay. So let me continue. You can record a video without any additional graphics or visuals. What I mean by that is they don't have to be digital graphics or visuals, but I do want you to at least provide me with a visual like on a paper. So I don't know if you remember the first week, I showed you a paper where I had drawn out my vision board. I'll go ahead and share it with you again on Thursday when we meet up. But that's what I mean by this phrase, okay? You don't have to make your whole presentation digital. Your presentation, your video, can be with you sharing a piece of paper and what you wrote down for your goals. Does that make sense? Okay. So the purpose of this video, right? One, of course, it's, you know, to justify your passing grade, but 2, it's also so that you have some kind of a journal account that you can hold yourself accountable to, right? Later on in the year, they're going to think about, you know, am I on the right track? Am I on the right path to accomplishing what I want to do by the end of this year? And just having a snapshot of this project or the video where you can refer to it is a handy little tool for you, right? And this also kind of helps you begin the process of visualizing your work, right? So let's think about the presentation that URCA gave us today. And they talked about having undergraduate students presenting their research all across campus in different platforms. Poster presentations were very directly shown. This could be considered a type of poster presentation for you, right? Where I'm not asking you to get academic and write, footnotes and cite people from specific research. I just want a layout of your plan, right? That visual layout of your plan. And so again, it's of this mentality that having it written down, having it on paper, gets you closer to actually achieving those goals that you set for yourself, because they're a constant reminder, right? So it works for you in those two ways, right? Now, I've gathered a list of questions for you that you can answer either directly in your video, either question by question, or you can use them to help you with how you want to present your video, all right? So what do you plan to do as a transfer student at UCSB? What types of experiences are you looking forward to exploring for personal, academic, and professional development? What will be your strategy for success? And how will these steps help prepare you for your life after UCSB, including graduate school, as an example, right? So question one, right? What do you plan to do as a transfer student? I mean, your bare minimum could be um, conduct research with, and then fill in the blank professor, or in fill in the blank department, right? What types of experiences are you looking forward to, right? There's this social organizations that we've talked about on campus, right? Fraternities, sororities, cultural clubs, and orgs. There's academic and professional development opportunities also. We've heard URCA talk about the academic stuff. EOP spoke to us about the professional development component, right? And workshops that you can attend to do that. And so understanding these resources, right, is a way that you can help strategize yourself for success. So how will you use those resources to help you accomplish your goal, right? And it could be something simple like maintaining constant contact with the EOP department, or with the Transfer Student Center, or with fill in the blank, faculty, staff. But I just want you to plan what kind of resources you're going to use to accomplish this, right? Because sometimes we can say, oh, we want to do this. The harder part is the follow through, right? How are you going to actually accomplish it? And so that's what those questions are intended to help you with. And so then on the back end, right, this is where year 5 can kind of come in, right? How do the initial steps help you post UCSB, right? Because in 5 years, if you go straight through from now until your degree, you should be done, right? So what have you done in this time at UCSB to help prepare you for year 3 and then year 5, right? And I think you heard some of that through our presenters. And it's also going to be a part of the topic of discussion that we're going to have as a group Thursday, right? Where we're going to be talking about organizing our schedules, strategizing, all that kind of good stuff that that we've already all done, right, as community college students. But now you kind of have to refocus, right? You've had some people come in, give you presentations, give you some information. How has that changed, shifted, or shaped your approach moving forward as a UCSB student, right? And so it gives you an opportunity for you all to share this individual goals that you might have for yourself. They could be simple, like On mine, it was about, I had some that were related to personal health. I had some that were related to my being a professional researcher. And then I had some that were related to my family as well, right? Like forward planning for my kids. And so those are all things that you can consider in your project, right? I don't want you to feel, all I want you to discuss is UCSB and research, but let's be honest with ourselves. We're at UCSB as researching students in order to accomplish the next goals, of our lives, right? And this helps catapult us into our personal lives. For many of us, if we're first generation college students, this could change the outcome for how our family exists economically. If you're born in poverty, you're more than likely to die in poverty. But if you go to college and you listen to the large network that you have available, you can tap into that, right? Research shows that your network will get you into your career.